Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too. It's another week of Dharma tributaries, except this week I'm going on with Clarissa Pinkola Estes, one of my female mentors, a Jungian psychologist and a great storyteller. Um, and so she helped me bring the mythological tales of the goddess to share with my daughters, since I admit almost all of my spiritual teachings were patriarchal in flavor. And although I picked people who I think were universalists and not dogmatists, nonetheless, I was severely lacking the understanding of women's initiations. And she really helped to open up not only just the stories, but the symbolic interpretation, psychologically speaking. And so today I'm talking about what's called creative fire. And creative fire is learning how not to stop yourself from doing what comes naturally to you. Now, certainly, everyone has some kind of trauma that interferes or twists us so that some part of us doesn't work in the right way. But if we're going to take ourselves to somewhere unknown, if we're going to be like a trailblazer, if we're going to move into the zones where we play and the free flow of our creative energy comes through, because play is a kind of altered state, we have to blur the focus on the kind of consumer capitalism that's been force fed to us, and we have to dismantle the old way. Yoga is really supposed to be a radical transformation, not just keeping the same old going. So that means you have to be willing to go wherever this spirit takes you, wherever it wish. Otherwise, it's an obstacle to the free flow of your own creative fire. So she often tells the story of Persephone, that's the daughter of Demeter, who was taken away by Hades to the underground, and she had to live there for 6 months a year. Now, it may be a pastoral story about the seasonal change that the Greeks told each other, but the idea is that something in you gets put below, and then you're no longer dancing. The world gets dark, the world gets depressed, the world gets frigid, the world is barren. Even what's above ground is wilted. And so she has to return every 6 months. So it's as if we have an innate predator, a part of ourselves that's malevolent, punitive, cheerless, undercuts us. It's not the good mentor. It's not the good guide. It's the false coach. It's the censor. It's the editor. And so that's the part that you have to look at. It's shadowy. And of course, learning how to break through it, doing your purification techniques on what blocks you, is a daily thing. I don't know if it's something you ever get over. It always can rear its ugly head. And so we have to purify ourselves according to the teachings, which means be clear about what's really our own and what's really imposed upon us. In psychology, it's called introjections. We've been force-fed stuff and we've swallowed it, and now we got to kind of puke it back up and get rid of it. And of course, laughter is one of the best ways to break through creative depression, because otherwise we crumble so easily, we meander so easily, and we lose our way. So we got to follow the contours of ourself, the curves of our own land. We have to not be afraid of understanding what the creative cycle is all about, because there's always incubation, the sense that we're pregnant with something. There's that period when it feels quickening, then there's the birth of it, and then it reaches a zenith when it grows. But then entropy always hits, and it tanks, and then there's the decline, and then there's the death. And then the cycle begins again. It's one of the things called the life-death-life cycle, which we'll talk about during this week. But it's important to know that it costs. There's tax on the system, which means you really got to do it. You can't just give lip service to this. So she would adjure us all to remember that blessings flow from your art, and part of your art has to be done because you love it. Do it without a goal. Do it without ambition. Do it aimlessly. You don't have to like turn it into merchandise, monetize everything. And then you're willing to just see what happens next and allow it to flow. That's your creative fire. I hope that you all connect to it because it's deep in your psyche. Uh, it's the part that still believes. It's the part that isn't interested in demeaning things. And it's the part that needs some triage because if you're bleeding, then you're losing your energy. So may you all find that warmth, the beauty that may be in your beast, the one that doesn't want to let go of the beautiful ideals, the images. So stick with that, keep creating, and we'll see you tomorrow.